Okay, so moving on to our next focus, which is looking forward to the big Thursday, Nigeria's Diamond Jubilee. So as you heard, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, already talking about plans, what they intend to do. I mean, the other time the President did launch the 60th logo, which everyone saw, the theme there, together. So now, the thing is, as there's several people who have been speaking about what they think Nigeria needs to do, the kind of policies they want to see us adopt to perhaps speak to that theme together, which is the theme of this Diamond Jubilee. So we decided to just put up some of these and ask you. Now, having heard lots of people speak about this, and as we commemorate the 60th, what policy would you want to see Nigeria adopt? So, a number of options. Should we include provision for a referendum in the Constitution? Should we delete the provision for state of origin in the Constitution? Do we allow Nigerians in diaspora to vote? What about switching to one term of 5 years for the presidency? What kind of impact do you think, if any, of these policies are adopted? What kind of impact will it make? Especially as that theme together is what we're running with. And by the way, don't forget, the presidency did say that it was going to be it will be a year-long celebration. Wow, that should be one of the longest. No one can remember. Longest celebration. But yeah, that's what it is. So now we've got Mr. Eze Onyekwe, who is a legal practitioner. He joins us from our studios in Abuja. He's also of the National Conservative Front, that's NC Front. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, it's
my pleasure.
Right, it's the week where attention will eventually switch to the big Thursday, Nigeria's anniversary. Having seen some of those issues that are making the rounds, and then our theme together, what do you think?
Well, it's an important thing that we want to work together, but rather than have a year-long celebration, I think it should be a year-long period for us to understand that we have serious challenges and get down to work to solve those challenges. So it is beyond the celebration, but it's a recognition that we've been around for 60 years, but we have not lived up to the age of 60. And then some of the issues you raised. Yes, we want a situation where power will be handed back to Nigerians for amendment of constitution through a referendum, rather than the current practice where you have a few members in the National Assembly and the state houses of assembly. And if you look at the things that have happened in the past, it seems they are not reflecting the popular will in terms of the heartbeat of Nigerians and what Nigerians want. So a lot of work needs to be done where we have a situation where the Constitution will recognize economic and social rights, as well as create the room for government to be able to raise the resources to fund those rights. Equal opportunities for Nigerians, not Nigerians suffering discrimination simply on the basis of their state of origin, but a Nigerian economy, a Nigerian political system which will encourage merit, which will become more competitive, which will allow the first 11 to come to the top. A merit-driven system, a race to the top rather than a current race to the bottom. So quite a lot of reforms are imperative, considering where we are. Other countries that we started with have left us behind. So we need to have a very fast means of catching up. And what we have currently will not solve the problem.
Leaning on that, the referendum you talked about, it's pretty much like an election, really, just to decide on what to do regarding what matter. And something, we still have challenges with our elections. I mean, we just conducted elections in Edo, which was adjudged, fairly credible. But look at the other ones we had before in Kogi and what happened. So regarding a referendum, are we really ripe for that in the context of conducting elections in Nigeria?
Well, I think we are right for it if we set the proper structures in place. Yes, we know that our elections have been manipulated, and may not have reflected the actual outcome of what the voters want. So part of the reform should also be to make the votes count. And this is not rocket science. It's like we have a system where people want to make very simple things look extremely difficult. That if we want to make sure that the votes count today, it can be done. It's been done before, and it can still be replicated, even if it means applying a little bit more of modern technology. Once the political will is here, once you get the right persons into positions of authority, and once you also set up a system which can allow popular oversight and accountability mechanism, because you don't simply give people power without having others look after what they're doing and be able to determine whether they've gone the right way or the wrong way. So if these things are done, get the power back to the people, you cast your vote at a polling center, results are declared, a way of forwarding it up to a portal everybody gets to see. So there shouldn't be any room for you to finish an election or maybe on Sunday night, and by 12 o'clock they're still waiting for results in 2 or 3 local governments after all have been declared, so that somebody could now manipulate figures to make the election inconclusive. We remove all those unnecessary arbitrariness and discretion that allows people to game and manipulate the system. It can be done. It's simple.
Yeah, it's one thing to have the structures in place. It's another thing altogether for that to be done according to the books. But let me stay, we'll get to that, but let me stay on that referendum issue the other time. You know how long it took us to have a selection of people for the national conferences that we have had over time. Well, it's easy to also to say that, well, once we get a system in place for the selection process, it will be done. But then we have had a situation, a system in place to recruit people into the National Assembly for 20 years plus one. And this is where we still are. What's the assurance that really a referendum can make a difference?
Well, it will make a difference to the extent that the votes are allowed to count. The system we currently have in place is not throwing up the right set of people. And it is like an all-comers affair. You have almost like what those you will consider outside even the third 11 always imagine tops each time the current system is being used. That means something is wrong with the system. And if we agree that something is wrong with the system, we must find a way to reform it. We should not be afraid of if we are going to have challenges along the way. But let us all agree that the system is not working and we need to reform it. We agree on a process of reform and we keep working on that process till we perfect it. But at least it must be better, something better than what we currently have. And we have seen in the past that in a few occasions, INEC or the political parties maybe have done things that we say reflect a bit of what the electorate want. But we cannot, because there are challenges along the way, simply refuse to start the process of reform.
But, you know, I'm still a little confused about that one, and I'd like you to educate us. The particular word here that is that's in contention for me in my mind is that of selecting the people that will champion some of these causes. It's the selection process that I think we have had issues with. Just as you said, a number of people have had issues with the quality of people that we have had, putting a question mark on our leadership recruitment process. What can we do differently?
Well, if we are thinking of fashioning out a fundamental document like the Constitution that will be enduring and reflect the wishes of the people, there are so many ways of identifying stakeholders that could be used to champion this cause. And if these are democratic institutions, they will also be able, using their own mechanisms, to be able to select the right candidates. Everything should not end up being the two-track race we have between the two leading parties, always throwing up candidates or wrong persons who now assume the reins of governance. So a lot can be done, but first of all, everybody needs to agree that something is wrong and that we must take steps. There are credible organizations, not just political organizations, professional associations, representation of ethnic nationalities. There are students, there are market women, there are all kinds of Nigerians, there are religious associations. People need to come together to fashion out a way, because what we have currently if we continue on this trajectory, nobody is sure where it is leading us. It is only going to lead us not to prosperity, but to perdition. Nobody is even sure if we are not being led into anarchy. Because we have a situation where a sitting governor is attacked over and over again. And 20, 30 persons are dying in his convoy. You did it last week. It's being reported again. Something is being done. For how long can we continue? Every day we count dozens of Nigerians being murdered, being massacred. Right. Whether you call them insurgents or whether you call them terrorists, something is fundamentally wrong and something has to give. We can't continue the way we are going because it is not leading us anywhere.
I think what will be vital is having the right people in the right positions. And I'm just wondering, if we would have the right people in the right positions, how far will federal character, or specifically the state of origin part, how much a role would it play in having the right people in the right positions? Do we do away with them and just allow it to be based on merit, or find a hybrid kind of arrangement? What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that there is no part of Nigeria where you wouldn't find very well qualified men and women with not just knowledge but also character. So it's not just about doing away with the federal character system. Yes, it should be a merit-driven system, but we de-emphasize this issue of federal character. We de-emphasize issues of state of origin, but that does not mean we will not recognize the diversity that is in Nigeria. Yes, every part of Nigeria needs to be given a sense of belonging, a sense of being part of the system, but that should not mean that we will put square pegs in round holes. And that's, like I said before, I believe that in every part of Nigeria, if we do a proper research, if we do a proper selection process, we will throw up the best of the best that can do the work.
Is it the policy of the federal character or the implementation of it that is the challenge?
No, like I said, the policy in itself, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. But it is in the way and manner it is implemented that is throwing up this challenge. But the issue is that if you want ministers, there is no way you can go to a state and you will not find one person who is qualified, both in terms of his knowledge, in terms of his character, in terms of his being able to deliver. But what we have always had is that you say federal character, you go to state X and pick a person who, if you were to use these parameters of knowledge and character, the person wouldn't even make the first 1,000. And you pick him and you say he's the representative of the state. He is not actually representative of the best in the state. So, but the policy needs to be a little bit rigid, and the way it has also been implemented is also fundamental to the crisis we are having.
Which also begs the question we raised earlier about the selection of people, the quality of people that you have also talked about. So how do we navigate that, given that the people who usually play the lead in these cases, in this kind of situation, they are politicians, the people we employ through elections and all of that. So how do we navigate this federal character thing? You're clearly recommending it will sound a modified federal character system. So how do we go about it?
Well, that is why Nigeria needs a mass movement, a new way of doing things, not just the traditional politicians, where you have men and women who believe in the system, not those who want to game the system, to come out to participate in the electoral and the political process. It is no longer going to be about some money bags who are carrying money and going about distributing it to buy people's conscience and their votes. And so the whole idea is that there should be sensitization and there should be a leadership recruitment process that allows everybody who is interested to come out, participate, even if it means bringing in diaspora voting. You know, a process that wouldn't simply be exclusive or exclusionary, not the kind of meetings, you have political meetings that start by 12 midnight and by 4:35, as soon as daylight is coming, they're all gone, as if to say you are having a meeting of a coven. No, that's not the kind of process or political participation we are looking for. We are looking for a new process. Yes, those people can still come, they can attempt to game the system, but Nigerians should be wise enough to know that they can no longer lead us to anywhere except perdition. So it is not a question of saying A, B, C, D have been there, therefore they must continue to be there. That's why we are talking of something new.
Something new. So should we be looking at that, the arrangement of terms? Should it be a single 5-year term, a single 4-year term, as the case may be, or continue with the 2-term limit?
Well, the issue of single term or 2 terms has its demerits and merits. Assuming you just say a single term, and the president or the governor knows he's not coming back to ask you for votes, he can as well say, to hell with you. Okay, I do what I want to do. I mean, the consequences will have been that I come back to ask you for vote and you refuse to vote me in. The other issue around 2 terms is that maybe you may feel it's taking so much long for power to rotate among people who are interested. The most important thing is to set up the structures, a way that you have checks and balances, that even if you are there for 7 or 8 years, you cannot simply wake up and do anything you want. There should be institutions to check you. There should be a way of calling whoever is in authority to order. Otherwise, whether it's single or for 2 terms, it doesn't really, it's not really the issue.
So what more institutions can we have in place? Pardon me, we'll get to that, but what more institutions can we have in place? I mean, we have these checks and balances. On paper, we have the institutions. In fact, they are established. So are we looking at having more institutions or empowering the current ones? Which of them?
Well, we have to empower the ones we have presently, okay, so that they can begin to work. And as well, the idea that citizens have a greater role to play, where if A or B as an institution, whoever is leading it, is not doing its work, a process of calling that institution or the leadership of that institution to order to either do its work or get out of the way for a new leadership to emerge in that institution. So it's not just about the current institutions doing business as usual, but a process that holds them accountable, that if they are not doing what they're supposed to do, then they will be forced out of the way. Because if we continue to say we have enough institutions, oh, the judiciary can do its work, oh, you have the EFCC, ICPC, and they continue the way they're going, things will not change.
All right, then. We do thank you for your time and perspectives this morning, Mr. Eze Onyekbere. All right, then. Okay, we'll be back to take a look at your feedback, and then, of course, take a look at some other items. Don't go away. Welcome back. Well, yes, we did put out the question for you, so you can just go ahead and vote on any of those items that you have seen there. So as we just mark our 60th, tell us, which of these policies would you like to see adopted or implemented such that, you know, you will feel the togetherness, which is the theme of this year's celebration, which, by the way, don't forget, it will be a year-long celebration, so you know. Well, guys, what are you doing? Just scrolling up to just comment. Well, already you can see how many people have voted and what they're voting for, so looks like it's going to be interesting at the end of the day. But don't worry, we'll keep tabs and then gauge and see what else you would like to see. But in the meantime, here is what some of you are talking about on some of the issues that you've heard us talk about in the last hour or two. Or Sharon Raji's comment, speaking about Labour, says, there's need for Labour to rethink negotiation strategy, better infrastructure, scrapping of casualization of Nigerian workers, unemployment benefits, pension reforms should be the focus. Labour has never won an oil price reduction. It's very obvious.
Well, this next one is from Professor Inakina. Says Nigerians are resilient against forces of egregious retrogression. In the midst of plenty, knavish increases in petroleum and electricity prices stifles the middle class, cause irascible and pernicious impoverishment of the already knackered below poverty class. You get the
Okay. Angela says, and this is also below the belt, toothless organized labor can only bark but can't bite. What a positive. And a Greek loan for civil servants.
Well, you see, I was wondering how that was going to play out. Okay, some meals now. Isn't it obvious that some of these labor union leaders do not have the interests of workers at heart? The fact is that Nigerian labor has been undergoing a declining trend in resources due to the ineffectiveness of these labor unions. That's Michael from Delta State.
And this next one is also concerned about palliative, saying, I am waiting to see how the palliative in transport and agriculture reaches the common man. How many common men and women can operate or have access to computers so that they can go and register? Already 34 kilowatts of electricity we used to buy for 1,000 is now equivalent to 17 kilowatts.
Ooh.
That's what he says.
Okay, so there you go. But already I see lots of people talking about reduce the fuel price now. So they think, how is, well, we'll get to hear from them as we progress. That is the show today. Don't forget to go out there, click and vote. Thank you for watching. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Kayode Kikiolu.
And I'm Ayo Makine. Have a wonderful day and please remain safe.